Living in America is a wealth trap and no one's talking about it. So a wealth trap is when you're doing everything right, like you're making money, you're being responsible, but the results feel delayed, muted, or capped. And this topic makes a lot of people feel uncomfortable because they're so used to growing up in America thinking it's the best country to live in, it's the best country to have a family in, it's the best country to run a business in. And for decades, there's been a ton of patriotism in this country. But don't get me wrong, this video is not going to be anti-America. I just came to a realization that if you're an online earner, this country can be limiting you heavy. So let's break down the difference between 1, earning money, 2, keeping money, and 3, letting the money work for you. So America is excellent at number 1. You can earn a ton of money here. We have a very high minimum wage, a good job market, a ton of opportunity. It's really good for connections. But for number 2, in terms of keeping that money, America is pretty mediocre. And then for number 3, when living in America, it's pretty hard to make your money work for you unless you're very hostile about it and unless you're being very intentional and really forcing it. So let's go to the American default lifestyle and why it's dangerous. Some of the defaults here are car ownership. So people every month are paying for, first of all, owning a car. That can either be buying a car outright or paying monthly. Like you could pay anywhere from $200 to like $600 a month towards your car loan. Second of all, you're paying for car insurance. That can be hundreds of dollars a month. And then third, gas. When I had a car, I was paying hundreds of dollars a month in gas. And then fourth, you're paying for your car being fixed, maintained, or even upgraded possibly. And then people in America default to having a huge living space. Like what's the biggest house they can afford? What's the most amount of money they can put towards a huge house while still being able to quote unquote afford it? Same thing for cars. People in America love to have huge cars with lots of space. And then long commutes are very normalized as well. It's pretty common to hear people drive anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour to work every day. But after traveling the world, the biggest dumb convenience I notice about America compared to other places is the eating out culture. It's so normal to go to McDonald's or Chipotle or Starbucks to go ahead and get coffee, food, snacks. It's ridiculous. It's literally a wealth killer. Now I know I seem like I'm penny pinching coming on here telling you it's a wealth killer, but trust me, it can drain your wallet. It felt so normal to go to the drive-thru, get food, or just when I'm working to go ahead, drive to Chipotle, pick up a burrito bowl. I remember when I was 18, after all my business expenses, my take-home profit for the year was anywhere between like $80,000 to $90,000. And my accountant was telling me on the call, like, look, Ryan, you need to have more needs and less wants because you're spending money on things that you want, but you don't need. And it really hit me there. Like I was just burning through money, whether it was spending on my car, on food, on coffee, whatever it was. But it's so normal here to go to Chipotle, buy like a $15 meal for lunch. Come evening time, you might spend $20 on a meal. And then in the morning, you were getting that $5 plus Starbucks or Dunkin' drink. That's just crazy. And then of course in America, everything's becoming subscription based, right? Like Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus. But again, when you're traveling the world or living in another country, you're still probably going to be paying for some of those subscriptions. It's not totally an American thing. But these defaults in America aren't necessarily evil. They're just expensive if you don't question them and if you don't control your spending rigorously. Let's dive into more why the car expense really changes everything. When having a car, it really locks you into gas dependence. You're stuck into paying money every single month for gas. Maybe when you think about how much you're paying for your car, you just factor in the price you're paying for your car. And you're not thinking about the expenses that come with it, like gas and insurance. Even if you're buying a cheap car, say you want to penny pinch and buy like one for under 10K, you get off Facebook Marketplace. Well, there might be issues that come with the car. You might have to upgrade it, get maintenance, or the car just might have terrible gas mileage and over time it just won't be a good decision because you're spending so much on gas. And time cost is a cost that nobody really calculates. Think about in the US how everything's so far from each other. You can't just walk down to the store, walk down to the market, or hop on a bus and get to a market quick. You gotta drive everywhere. Things take time. Commutes, traffic, errands can really take up your time. And as you know, time is money. Time is the most expensive thing you're losing. In America, wastes it efficiently. And rent in America isn't just high, it's psychologically draining, especially when you go online and look at the cost of living in other places, such as places in Europe that are super safe, super nice. The rent is lower in many of these places. And then South America. South America is super cheap. Of course, there's some dangerous areas, but if you avoid those dangerous spots, you can get really nice apartments or big apartments for a fraction of the cost than if you're paying in the US. I still remember when I was living in my parents' house doing about 10 to 20K a month profit, I couldn't really wrap my head around the fact that if I were to move out of my parents' house, I'd have to pay a bunch of money just for a mediocre apartment in a town that I didn't really like, in a place that didn't inspire me, wasn't super walkable, wasn't super convenient. And social life in America is just expensive by design. If you're going to a bar or restaurant or event, everything is just so much money. In Europe, the parks and cafes are just flooded, cheaper places of meeting. Other parts around the world really have connection without the consumption. Also in America, there's the consumer identity loop. Things like reward culture or buying stuff to feel progress. Companies, of course, pressure you into signing up for credit cards. Say, oh, if you sign up for my airline card, you'll earn points for airlines, but then in reality, you might go into debt using that card. Credit cards can be an amazing tool. You can travel the world for cheaper with them. You can use them to fund your business. But if you're taking on all this personal debt, at times it can be very unhealthy and can set back your time to retirement or financial independence by a ton of time. Saving your money a lot of times feels like punishment in the US. I was always pressured, not necessarily directly, but indirectly, to spend money, have a cool car. I would be buying a ton of gadgets, whether it was on Amazon or at the store. Or I'd hear people say, like, what's the point of money if you don't enjoy it? You should spend it, not just hoard it all for retirement, which I do get. But like everything, balance is key. Even high performers get stuck here. People making a ton of money online get stuck in the US. People are scared to leave. They have a ton of fears about leaving the country. They might want to go on a trip to have cheaper expenses, travel the world, see amazing things, meet amazing people, try new food. But they're nervous because they don't have anyone to go with. First of all, that's a big problem. And of course, I went through that same thing when I started traveling. I was nervous about not having people around me. But using the right strategies, you can meet people around the world with similar goals to yours. Or two, people might feel like they already built a life in the US, which is fine. I pretty much did also build a life in the US up until my 20s. Like, I have my business in the US, my family in the US. That doesn't mean I have to live in the US. Or three, people might have a fear of looking weird. They might want to fall into family pressures or social pressures, pressuring them to stay in that nice apartment neighborhood that they like in the US, or pressuring them to stay in this job in the US that they really don't like. People don't always just stay in the US because it's optimal. They stay because leaving requires identity change. This young generation in US loves to hustle, and I love that. I'm one of those guys. I was like American internet raised. I grew up playing video games, making money online, always wanting to hustle. But the reality is, in America, there's huge lifestyle inflation. So if you go from making, let's just say, 2 to 3 grand a month to suddenly 8 grand a month, then 15K a month. Realistically, there's going to be a lot of lifestyle inflation, especially if you want to live on your own, have a car. You might be scaling your income, but then your freedom score is like dropping because now you're locked in to paying for a car, an apartment, etc. And I'm not talking about just paying normal prices. I'm talking about paying prices that you can barely afford just to stay afloat. When I started traveling a ton of cheap countries in places like South America, I really realized that I was making great money online, anywhere from like, let's just say 8 to 20K a month. My income was staying the same, but my expenses were changing where I was going. So a couple months I'd be in the US. If I wanted to go out to dinner, it would cost me anywhere from like, let's just say 30 to 40 bucks. Then if I was in Colombia one month, going out to dinner would cost me like $7. Same thing for an apartment. Like if I were to, like I said, move out of my parents' house when I was in the US and get an apartment, it would be thousands of dollars a month. Like maybe I could find one for like 1.5K, but realistically, a nice apartment in a nice place, it's not cheap, especially if I wanted to live in a city. And in Europe or South America, you could pay around $1,000 a month or less to live in a city. So I was having all these realizations like, look, as an online earner, someone who has an online business or makes money online, you can travel around, have these amazing experiences, like the best experiences in the world, meet amazing people of all different cultures, learn so much, and you don't have to really make any more money to do that. You can make the same amount of money as you were when you're living in the US, and you can actually invest more every month because your expenses are dropping. So that surplus, you can take that, put it into stocks, you could put it into crypto, put it into your long-term mutual funds. Me, I invest into long-term mutual funds as the main chunk of my portfolio. Then I have some stocks, crypto, etc. on the side. But by taking advantage of this lifestyle, it can really fuel your investment portfolio, fuel your future wealth building, etc. But when you're in the US and your income is around the same, but lifestyle inflation's kicking in, you might have friends that are getting newer cars, you want to get a newer car. So that surplus, which is like the amount you're making every month compared to what you're spending, can be getting smaller and smaller. And the amount you have to throw into investments or new business opportunities can become smaller and smaller. So the problem isn't always about discipline, it's about structure. Because maybe you are a super disciplined person who doesn't go out to that $20 lunch. Instead, you cook at home, and you don't always go ahead and go out to get $5 Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts in the morning. You don't always go out and get coffee. Maybe you have coffee at home, but still there's other factors. Trying to build wealth in a high cost environment is like walking upward on a treadmill, especially when some of these lower cost environments offer things that you might value a ton, such as the culture or public transport that's super cheap, so you don't have to have a car, or the sense of community or sense of religion in the culture. These are all things that I pay high attention to when I'm traveling or picking where I want to spend time. And these years now are pretty much the first time in any recent history that us online earners or business owners can really take advantage of this lifestyle. Because think about it, before the internet, if you were having an amazing job in New York, making crazy money, you couldn't just take off months to travel. First of all, you might not be able to sustain that lifestyle because you might be spending pretty much close to what you're making every month. Second of all, you could get fired. Like if you're working a job, no matter what it is, no matter how much money, if you take off months to travel the world, you can get fired for that. Your boss probably isn't going to like that. But if you have an online business or online income where your income doesn't really depend on your location, you can really take advantage of the system. Understand that traveling is not the same as relocating. You might be watching this and it might make you feel like you want to travel the world. Go ahead and travel. But unless you're relocating, you're not going to reap all these benefits. Because if you go on a trip, for example, right now, if I were to go to South America, a cheap country, I might still have high expenses or be paying the same amount as if I were living in the US. Because if I'm traveling, I'm probably going to want to go to cool bars, cool restaurants, go out a ton to meet new people, be doing cool activities, zip lining or going on boats, whatever it is. Like when you're traveling, you're in vacation mode, which is normal. Like when you're going to travel, you want to do all the things to experience the culture, have fun, do all the tourist activities that are there. And you're not really escaping that consumption mode when you're traveling, because that's the whole point. You're consuming all these cool things. But relocating equals optimization and living equals systems. When you're traveling, you're spending money, but when you're living somewhere, you're changing how the money behaves. Because when you're living somewhere, you just have the same routine. You go to the same grocery store to shop. You're around the same people, so you don't feel like you have to spend a bunch of money, try to get in new rooms to meet new people. You have the same apartment, so you know how much every month you're going to be spending on your rent. You're paying the $20 to $40 monthly transport pass to get around the city. You're not paying for a car. And then, of course, you're not spending money on plane tickets because you just took that one ticket there, and you don't got to be thinking about where the next place you want to go is, trying to find the cheapest flight options, etc. And compounding surplus really beats compound hustle. Instead of always trying to figure out how you're going to make an extra 1 to 2K that month to try to invest it, why not just lower your expenses by 1 to 2K, and then you can invest that money, and then it frees up time as well. And then it doesn't have to be a monthly thing every month. You're not saying to yourself, oh, I got to work extra hard to make an extra 1 to 2K because I really want to fuel this portfolio. It's just naturally happening. You can set up automatic deposits like I have, automatic deposits that go from your personal bank account into your investment portfolio. I have these set up, no questions asked. So every month, money comes out from my personal account to my investment account. Social expansion abroad is also something that should be touched on. Your social life can transform abroad since you'll be meeting new people from different cultures. And if you're staying somewhere, for example, your first few nights in a hostel, you can meet a ton of other guys that are into online business, living a similar lifestyle to you. And when you're landing in a new country, it can be hard to meet people. But if you're learning from someone like me who's been there and done that, I have so much value I can give to you guys. Like, for example, if you go ahead and say you sign like a 1-month apartment lease, or like you book an Airbnb for a month, or you sign a 3-month apartment lease, like anything long term, well, you can instead book a hostel for your first few days before you go to your apartment. So when I went to Barcelona, I had an apartment for a month. But before I went to that apartment, I stayed in a hostel. And the power of that is you're in a hostel. Of course, it's not nice or anything. You're sharing a room, but you can meet people. So when I was in the hostel, I was meeting people on these walking tours. I met some really cool guys, and I met people that I was able to hang out with once I went to the apartment. Because if you're just going to a new country, going to an apartment, it might be really hard to meet people because you're like isolated, you're in your apartment. But if you're first spending a few days in a hostel, you're around other people. Second of all, if you're joining group chats with other similar like-minded people that are into traveling, you can meet them abroad. So I'm in this online business chat. Basically, whenever I go to a new place, I type in the chat that I'm going, and I'll find people to meet up with most of the time. For example, when I was going to Germany, I typed in the chat like, hey, I'll be in Berlin next week. Who wants to meet up? And people responded in the chat. We made our own group chat on Telegram, and I met up with them. I met up with like 3 guys my first night in Germany. It was awesome, and they became decent friends because when I was in Germany next time, a couple of us met up again. And they're guys who are into making money online, business, the gym, similar interests to me. And if I didn't have these systems in place before I was traveling, it would be much harder to meet people. And trust me, I've been there. It's hard to make friends traveling sometimes if you don't have the right systems in place. And since we have these online incomes or remote incomes, we can strategically be in a place where we're comfortable raising kids or having a family when we're older. Being in a place that we consider safe, having good culture, having good values, good types of people, or even just the cost of raising kids in whatever city or town you're living in. And people really hate hearing this. And to me, it seems like they just hate hearing it because they've never experienced it. They've never experienced traveling the world, being in these super cheap cultures with amazing people, amazing food, going to a restaurant, just spending a few bucks on an amazing meal, going out, meeting people from all around the world with similar goals, similar values to you. It's awesome. And people attack the idea because it frankly just threatens their narrative of what they like about living in the US. This isn't about escape. It's about optionality. We can choose what season we want to be in. Do we want to be in summer all year round? Well, we can move to a country that has great pretty much summer weather all year round? Or do we want to go to a place that has a certain language spoken or a certain cultural norm that we like? We can go there. And if you're thinking maybe you'll go next year, maybe you'll go in 2 years, there is the cost of waiting that one more year. Think about compound interest and how important it is to start early. And think about these experiences that you might be young enough to make now, but when you're older, you realistically won't be able to make. Like when you're 50 years old having a family, do you think you'll realistically be able to just leave your hometown and go off to South America or go off to Europe for a month? Realistically, maybe not if you have like a wife and kids. And I make this content not for everyone. It's not for your average person working a regular job in the normal town liking it. It's for people like me that have an online income, whether it's through an online business or an online job, and are eager to see more of life, travel the world, find cool cultures, cool people, meet new people, expand your network, build businesses. Be an international business person or a citizen, not just tied to one country, not tied to one place, one government. And this is not some moral judgment. It's just an optimization tool. And America isn't broken. It's just expensive by default, like I said. Consumerism is everywhere, from when you wake up in the morning thinking about where you'll go to buy your $7 coffee that you can make on your own for just some cents, to where you're going for lunch, to where you're going for dinner, to the car you're paying for, to always trying to have a better car, even though you might just need a car that costs a few $1,000s to get around. You might be buying that car that's tens of thousands of dollars or possibly even more. And of course, over the past few years, the American economy has been up, like the SP 500 has been soaring. But the thing is, what's powering that growth? Well, it's consumer spending. So it's people like me, people like you spending money in America. And if there's so much spending, so much friction between you and your investment portfolio, then wealth growth might be a bit tough. And wealth grows where friction is lowest. So if there's low friction from money going from your personal account to your investment account every month, then wealth can really grow because you're not thinking about having to invest every month. The money's just automatically going from place to place. I made way too many mistakes along this journey so far, and I'm only 22. And when I was 18 or whatever, starting traveling, living abroad, I wish I had someone that had the knowledge I have today. And I made a video breaking down exactly how living abroad saves me $2,000 per month. Click the video on the screen to watch, or click the top link in the description.